So no millimeter wave antenna, and yes, SIM card slot. I'll place the phone down on a heat mat for a minute to soften the adhesive, before securing it in the Refox RS50 to pull it open. I'll add a few drops of isopropyl alcohol along the centre of the screen to keep it open. I'll disconnect the battery first, before the single screen flex cable and the light sensor. The only component on the screen assembly is the proximity sensor, as the dynamic island is just part of the display, with cutouts for the camera and sensors. Alright, let's unclip some little Legos. No metal shield for the camera module, but otherwise a very similar camera setup as the 14 Pro. With a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera with no OIS, a 48 megapixel main sensor with second generation sensor shift stabilization, and a 12 megapixel telephoto camera with 3 times optical zoom and second gen sensor shift OIS. At the top of the phone we have our first loudspeaker, as well as the front facing camera assembly, with a 12 megapixel selfie camera with OIS and the Face ID camera and projector. Removing the motherboard gives us our first indication at the new sandwich design, where the back glass is now removable on the Pro models. The wireless charging coil is plugged into the back of the board, so it can be disconnected when opening the phone from the back. But thanks to this concertina ribbon cable, it can be unplugged from the front as well. This is a double stacked motherboard featuring the A17 Pro 3nm chip. The SIM tray is soldered to the board. This is the LiDAR sensor. At the bottom of the phone we have the lower loudspeaker. The vibration module or taptic engine, which is a tiny bit smaller than last year's. To remove the charging port assembly, I'll first need to remove the battery. There's one battery pull tab at the top, but I'll need to remove some cables first to access it, including the cable for the side buttons, which snakes across the phone. This didn't help much, as the remaining pull tab is still wedged behind this metal wall. which I can barely get my tweezers behind. Not to worry though, as the top pull tab is pretty small and the battery can simply be twisted out, revealing the A3011 with a rated capacity of 3274 mAh and a typical capacity of 3290, which is about 2% larger than last year's. Now the charging port is not intended to be removed without taking off the back glass first, as there are two metal tabs blocking these screws. But if you don't want to remove the back glass to replace the charge port, you can either bend these tabs down or try to get your screwdriver around them. These tabs make it a bit tricky to remove the assembly, but with a bit of finagling I managed to pull it out. Here we have the top antenna flex cable, and this is where the millimeter wave antenna would be on the North American variants. Removing the side button flex, we get a closer look at the new action button, which is indeed a button. The remaining components cannot be removed from this side. This includes the wireless charging coil, the camera flash, and the 5G antenna. For that, we'll need to take the back off. This was harder than I anticipated, so I cut in from the inside for fear of cracking the glass. But once I got it started, my card sliced through the adhesive pretty easily. One thing you need to be aware of when pulling the glass off are these two clips at the top.